Ah, Reddit. Yes. The bastion of humanity, where we all go to fuel our next workers' revolution, right? Ah, this is an unfortunate topic. I hate talking about this. I'm going to go ahead and apologize for my camera. The green screen's working funky, so I have to fix that later. Either way, hope you can ignore that. Unfortunately, a growing movement, Reddit, a growing subreddit, which has sort of been a movement in of itself. We're going to talk about that distinction in a second. A growing subreddit has come into a lot of trouble, and I think it has been a source of communication between a lot of workers who talk about a lot of issues they have at work. Anti-work is not just people who aren't working. It is full of people who are discontent with their current job situation, whether that be having to work with COVID, not getting any sick days with COVID or not. It could be cancer, poor, it's too many hours, way too many hours to even count. Not spending time with family, kids, having interpersonal relationships, just spending way too much time working. And that's a lot of people who are discontent with that situation and who are turning against the American workplace, thus anti-work. I think that's where the name really does come from. It's not about being lazy and not working. Unfortunately, as with this title here, the biggest trick of Fox News is to stereotype groups, stereotype huge sections of the population into specific categories, and ultimately dissolve them based on these stereotypes, create a picture of them, and rail on them from there. Basically, Fox News works by being a huge straw man machine. I'm going to show you the interview that caused a lot of backlash from individuals in the anti-work community, and we're gonna look at that. It's hard to watch, but yeah, here we go.
Joining me now is the person who operates this anti-work group, Doreen Ford. All right, so Doreen, why do you like the idea of being home, not working, but still getting paid by corporate America?
Yeah, so there's some misconceptions about the movement. So we're a movement where we want to reduce the amount of work that people feel like they're forced to do, and so we want to still put in effort. We want to put in labor, but we don't want to necessarily be in a position where we feel trapped. You just quoted from Office Space, where that person feels very trapped in their job. I think we're calling for a society where there's less of that. But yeah, absolutely, people still want to do things. They just want to do things where they feel rewarded and they feel like they're in a good spot in their life, and that their job respects them and stuff like that. There's varying.
So Doreen, but you're not being forced to work. This isn't slave labor. You've applied for a job. You've agreed to the terms and conditions of the employment, and you can walk away from that job at any time and quit. So I don't understand really what this is about,
Sure.
except it sounds like maybe people are just being lazy. Are you encouraging people to be lazy?
So I think laziness is a virtue in a society where people constantly want you to be productive 24/7, and it's good to have rest. That doesn't mean you should be resting all the time or not putting effort into things that you care about. But I think one of the
What do you think is like a good work day? How many hours is a solid work day in your ideal society?
Sure. I mean, I think as much as people want. I mean, I personally work. I have like a 25 hour work weeks, which I think is fairly good. So I would like less work hours.
And what do you do, Doreen?
I'm a dog walker.
A dog walker. Okay.
Yes.
And how?
Yeah. So
How
I
old
find a
are
lot
you,
of
if you don't mind me asking?
Sure, I'm 30.
You're 30. Okay. And is there something you want to do besides being a dog walker? Do you aspire to do anything more than dog walking, or is that kind of your pinnacle?
I love working with dogs. If I had to do this for the rest of my life, I wouldn't be super complaining. Dogs are wonderful animals. But I would love to teach. I would love to, work with people and stuff like that.
What would you teach, Doreen?
Philosophy mostly, just introduction to philosophy, critical thinking, reason, stuff like that.
Okay. Well, I would love to take your class, Doreen. I would just be taking notes the whole time. And you know what? A professor's a very similar schedule than something that you're imagining. So I think that actually might work perfectly for you. Listen, I think this might not be the greatest idea, but who am I to judge? To each their own, they say. It's a free country.
Sure.
Not everything's free, but it is a free country. Thank you so much. Sure. We got to run. We got to pay the bills.
So, I am sure you saw what happened there. So, first, the Fox News host basically interconnects moderator with leader of the group, right? Reddit moderators aren't leaders of anything. I think my generation knows that. Generations a little bit previous know that. Fox News's main audience probably doesn't know that. They probably don't. And that's the main voting base that they're targeting here. So, that happened. The moderator spouts some basic talking points. Obviously, has really no awareness. It seems like they have no awareness of this ploy, this social ploy that Fox News is doing. No awareness of how these media outlets work. Falls straight into the trap of saying that laziness is a virtue to Fox News. Played right into their hands. They showed up disheveled. What was her name? Doreen, I think. I apologize for forgetting her name, but they showed up completely disheveled. Didn't wear anything in particular that showed confidence or really anything that, some sort of professionalism. Not that that's a requirement to actually mean anything. I mean, that's one way that Fox News makes the poor look bad. I mean, if you're disheveled in some way, you must not amount to much. I mean, because being disheveled amounts to poverty. So I think that's one common stereotype. And then says that she's a dog walker and wants and aspires to be a philosophy teacher. Of course, they have their stereotype about the usefulness of philosophy. It all just fell right into the hands of this media outlet. This is exactly what they were looking for. It made the anti-work movement, or I would actually like to call worker reform movement, look bad. And I think people are actually moving to a subreddit called Reddit/worker reform or work reform or something like that. So that's the point here. This interview made an entire movement look awful. And that's exactly what Fox News was poised to do, to dismantle a movement by stereotyping those at the top and just barreling down based on that straw man. And I think they succeeded. I think they ultimately succeeded. It caused the group to basically disband, and now the moderators are going about disabling comments and blah, blah, blah because they're criticizing the interview. And I actually think I heard that there was a poll saying, should I go do an interview on Fox News? And basically the group said, no, don't do that. And they did it anyway, probably because they were looking for attention. And that attention seeking, I don't think some people realize the power that they have, and they could have just set back a movement a lot just simply by showing up to this interview, misnaming themselves. There is a lot of stuff. Rhetoric is very powerful. And that's why I think this is really, really, really unfortunate. Because this interview set back a workers' movement. Simply on the basis of rhetoric and trickery and doing things that don't actually amount to addressing real workers' issues. Let's read this article for a bit. The interview was not a great look for burgeoning online movement. Sorry, it's hard to read from where I'm reading. There are some misconceptions about the movement, Ford told Waters at the first question. The movement where we want to reduce the amount of work that people feel like they're forced to do. And so we want to still put in effort, we want to put in labor, but we don't want to necessarily be in a position where we feel trapped. I think that's a great point, specifically for lots of people who are working way too much overtime. There are American workers right now working way too many hours, who do not need to be working that many hours. I'm backing up from the because of this. Who don't need to be working that at all. There are arguments for the 4-day work week that she could have placed, but she didn't do that. Instead, she made a comment about laziness being a virtue. She played right into their hands, and it's unfortunate. So, as we continue on, I think laziness is a virtue in a society where people constantly want to be a productive 24/7. Ford said, it's good to have rest. That doesn't mean you should be resting all the time nor putting effort into things you care about. Despite the movement's name, she said, is the concept of not working isn't really the central focus. Is currently employed as a dog walker, working about 20 to 25 hours a week. When Walters asked what she might ideally want to do professionally, Ford said she'd like to teach philosophy and critical thinking. Again, I think it reiterates the point that this became about Ford rather than the movement itself. The subreddit went offline. This was just not a good look for the workers' movement. And that's the thing. It's the trickery of Fox News here, who placed a person who really doesn't have any power because moderators don't actually lead anything. They simply moderate a group, delete comments. That doesn't mean they're the leader of a movement. They kind of, in the beginning, if you pay attention, go back and rewatch that, they kind of position her in a position as like she's a leader. They don't say it. They don't. They do accurately say that she's a moderator of a Reddit group, but it wasn't an accurate portrayal. And then it goes on to focus on her thoughts and, again, stereotypes the group, places these people in a position of, oh, they just don't want to work, they're lazy, doesn't address any of what are the most prominent points and how people actually go post on this Reddit. I hope you can find some. I adhere you to go actually look at this subreddit when it comes, if it hopefully comes back online. Look at old posts of what people are actually talking about. This is work reform, less hours, more compensation, more pay, actually treating workers like human beings like they should be treated. This is not a group of lazy people. These are people who are overworked to hell and back. And these are people that need time off. These are people that need to be treated with respect. These are nurses who had to deal with COVID and have to deal with working with COVID. These are fast food workers who are working 60 to 70 hours a week. These are healthcare workers working 60 to 70 hours a week. These are people that don't have time with their families. These are people who are done, sick and tired of being overworked. These are not people who are simply saying that they think laziness is a virtue. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that statement itself. You know, it is good to sit back, rest, focus on things you want to do. You know, there is a lot of philosophy around the idea of wage slavery and so on and so on. I'm not even making any of those points, but she played right into their hands, and it's sad. It really, I'm saddened by it. And now we have a dismantled group and people are looking for outlets now to talk about these issues, and hopefully another subreddit comes along or something. And hopefully this doesn't just stay as a subreddit. This becomes an actual political movement with power, with force, with something that drives it forward and actually becomes a meaningful movement in some way. That's my hope. I don't want it to shrivel and die in this, because right now I think the labor shortage and the what would be called the Great Resignation is one of the best things that can happen to workers at this moment, and workers really need to employ this to work properly. Fox News is trying to divide the workers. Even some other outlets are trying to divide workers. We can't let it work. The workers need to come together. We don't have a leader here. This person does not represent the group. We need to move forward. Need to fight. Start unionizing. Start doing things. Build worker solidarity. Keep going forward. Fight the great fight. Everyone, I appreciate it. Thanks for listening. I'm saddened. I really am. I hope things turn out well in the future. That's I really do. Either way, thank you for listening. I'll see you next time. Peace.